everybody's having a good day. My name is Ben Simmons. I am the co-founder and CEO of Table Needs. Table Needs is a restaurant point of sale that focuses on not only being a complete system for your quick service restaurant or food truck establishment, but also we focus heavily on creating a system that you can kind of put your restaurant on and follow our rails and move into becoming a profitable restaurant. So today we're going to talk about a topic that I hear a lot out speaking in the world and speaking to restaurant owners and food truck owners all over this country. And it's a question that I get maybe more than anything. And that is, how do my prices look? What do you think about my prices? How should I be pricing my menu items? And quite frankly, it's something that there's a lot of questions on. There's a lot of answers too out on the internet, a lot of really bad answers to this question out on the internet. And so we're going to look at some of that today and figure out how do we price our menu such that's going to maximize our potential for sales and also help us run a profitable establishment. So first, before we get to that, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and my background. I have owned restaurants. I have worked in the food space for a long time. I've also spent the last little more than a decade as a professional software engineer for various different companies. And then at some point during that journey, I finished an MBA. I've owned franchise and non-franchise restaurants and helped co-found Table Needs. And we started as a QR menu product and have taken that now into a full-blown point of sale that is, I think, beginning to make waves in the industry, particularly on the food truck side of things, because we have a very complete product and because we're out there talking about things like this that are really, at the end of the day, what everyone seems to care about is how do I run a profitable business. So today we're going to be going over a number of things. First, let's establish what are we even talking about in terms of menu pricing, the importance of data when it comes to that, 3 different methods that you can use to price your menu that are industry standards. And then we're going to talk about a little bit about tips for creating a menu specifically and how Table Needs specifically can help you in creating a restaurant that is going to be profitable. So, what is menu pricing? Well, obviously, it's more than just the numbers that you put up on your board or your TV or your drive-through or whatever you have or on the side of your truck. It is what is going to influence not only your customers' decisions to visit you in some cases, but also on whether or not to come back, and it's part of your brand. There are a number of studies that have been done in terms of human psychology and how we price things, and a large decision that has to be made not only in the marketing of your specific food truck, but in the whether or not you're setting yourself up from day one with the ability to actually make money in your business has to do with how we price our menu. The most common mistakes that I see in terms of how folks like to price their menu are, one, just not knowing how to do it, not having a formula that they use. But some of the most common areas I see folks actually hurt their business is just sort of shooting from the cuff, saying, well, I'm just going to mark it up X times or whatever. And they don't even necessarily have standardized recipes half the times. They just sort of do some back of the napkin math. And then they say, okay, well, I'm not losing money here. And they say, I'm not losing money here because that's more than I paid for it. But they calculated it one time. They don't pay attention to whether or not their vendors are changing their prices on them, and they just presume that they're going to be good from that time forward. There are a couple things to consider when pricing your menu. The first is the cost of the items that you're paying for it, of course. But there's also what will the market bear, and that is obviously we can't price our items too high. We can't price our items too high because they're not going to sell, because there is the laws of supply and demand. And so often people, especially when they're just getting started out, create this race to the bottom, especially if they're in a very convenient market. So they can say, well, my competitor's price for this item is $8, so my price needs to be $7.99 or $7.50 or whatever. This is not necessarily a good pricing strategy because you don't know what they paid for that item. And you also have to take things into consideration, like what is the perception of your brand going to be. And then the last thing that I see that is quite often unfortunate is people don't have standardized recipes. They don't have, again, a formula to follow for setting their menu pricing, and they are they don't understand the numbers of their business from the beginning in order to be able to price their menu effectively. You're going to see a little bit more of that once we get into the data. So, speaking of data, what data do you need? How do you gather that data? And what are we going to use it for? We'll get into next. But your point of sale should be able to access a lot of hopefully very transparent reports that provide you most of this data. We try desperately to make this very easy on folks at Table Needs. It should be something that you can go and get very readily and accessible to you at the click of a button, either on your phone or desktop computer, or on your point of sale unit itself. But again, the first step in all of this, if you do not know your menu, your food costs, you're going to have to spend some time right there. There's a lot of great resources out there. I know Bill Moore's food truck training group has a great resource for this in a downloadable spreadsheet that you can go get to kind of help calculate what are my food costs for a particular item. But that's the foundation of all of this, is having standardized recipes that are by portion. And if you don't have that, that is step one. So break down those items into cost. And understand that every portion of this that goes out is going to cost me X number of dollars. So whatever that number is. Then you really need to go grab labor costs, ideally for various periods of time. So if you're going to be basing your pricing decisions off of the last 3 months of your business, or then you go grab that. If you're a business just starting out, obviously there are methods to get around this, which we will go over when we get to the factor method. But it is something that is going to make your pricing more accurate. But if you don't have it, obviously you got to start somewhere. Prime costs are obviously the combination of your food and labor costs, so that's a given that we need to get that. EBITDA can either be your desired EBITDA, earnings before interest and taxes and depreciation and amortization. Basically, what net profit does your business make, or do you want it to make? What overhead you have as a business that isn't considered just food costs or labor costs. And then some information about your competitor pricing. So obviously you have to go do the legwork to grab some competitor pricing. The rest of this information can be gathered hopefully directly out of your point of sale units. So there are 3 well practiced, documented methods of pricing a menu. There's obviously lots of advice on this out on the internet. These 3 methods come from Cornell, who has one of the best hospitality programs in the country. And we're going to go into each of them a little bit in depth. The first one is factor method. Factor method is the simplest option. It is best for a new business. It is something that you want to eventually escape from, but it can be a starting point for a new business. Then there's the prime cost method, which takes labor into account. It's obviously a more comprehensive method, and this is only possible for businesses that are going to either have an idea of what they think their prime cost, their labor cost is going to be, um, uh, and how many items they're going to sell in a period of time, or an established business that has some data to pull from. And then the best way to price items, in my opinion, is going to be the actual cost method. It's the most comprehensive method. It is best for scaling your business and maximizing the profit you can get out of each individual item. And so in order to look at all three of these, I'm actually going to pull up the Table Needs Menu Pricing Calculator, which can be downloaded off of our website for free. So I'm going to break out of this and jump into the menu pricing calculator. And I've got that right here. All right. Let's just grab this. There we go. All right. So here we have the Table Needs Food Cost Calculator, menu pricing calculator. And it's going to walk you through everything, all the things that I just explained. If we head over to the factor method, there's an explanation of what that looks like. But this one, again, is the simplest. We're not going to spend too much time on it. The idea is that you have a standardized recipe already, so that you know my food cost for this particular item is however much. So let's say that that item costs you $3 in ingredients to make. And then you have to know what your target food percentage is. If you're an established business, this is something that you can obviously pull from. Here's what we have done, but this is more of a wishful thinking. Here's what I want it to be. So in my establishments, we try to target, if it's quick serve or food truck, a 25% food cost. That is based off of some numbers from the National Restaurant Association of what is actually achievable in terms of looking at the averages for that type of establishment, but also what kind of profit do I want to make. So in this instance, we have an item that is costing us $3. We'll make it an odd number, so we'll say this costs us $3.11 to make, right? And we're targeting a 25% food cost. So the actual math on that leads to $12.44. If we round that up, obviously you can round this to the nearest 50 and do it $12.50. This is just a convenience tool. And then that final food cost is right there with the rounded price. So this is a very simple method. It is a method that is based off of your desire for your food cost, and it is better than nothing. And it is certainly better than kind of throwing, darts at it and just trying to guess. The next method, the prime cost method, is something that you are going to need an understanding of your labor for. Now, right in the food cost calculator here, there's some instructions on how to calculate the average labor cost per item. Most of these formulas were originally created, and in like much academia of the food industry, everything sort of pushes itself to full service restaurant and fine dining in terms of what they make the formulas for. So all these formulas originally are based off of covers. We don't necessarily have a knowledge in the food trucks or quick service unless you're collecting this information on all the covers that we have. What we do know is the number of items and the categories that they're coming from, hopefully. So adapting this to a counter serve model or a food truck model is the work that we did here to try to put this together to give you a formula specifically for food trucks. So determining the total labor cost per item is an important step here. And in order to do that, you're just going to grab your sales, grab your labor, divide the total labor cost by the number of items sold to find the average labor cost per item. And that goes in right here. So now you're looking at how much is the food, in theory, going to cost me when I sell this item of the stuff moving out of inventory? And this is, again, it's standardized recipes. It is not just food. It is also paper products in an ideal world. Anything that it takes in raw materials to produce that item and get it to the customer, that is included in that line for food cost items. And then you take your average labor per order item. If you are a one-person show in the food truck, please, when you set up your business model, either pay yourself or account for paying yourself like you were, so that you can have a business model that works and so that you can make something for your time, not just kind of hope for the best. And then that's going to lead to a prime cost for this item. So the food cost for the item, the average labor per order item, in theory, on our averages, that is the prime cost for that item. We can look at now, what is our target prime cost, and we can change that for whatever we want and say, all right, our target prime cost, we're not making a lot of money if we're going beyond 60%, so let's target 55% or something lower to account for the changes and fluctuations in overhead of the business. So from there, that's going to spit out a minimum sale price and a rounded price. You can round things a number of different ways. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, and the decisions around why you would round things certain ways or another. But I call it a minimum sale price primarily because there's also not just what can I make money on, but what will the market bear? Because there's going to be some items on your menu that you can make a better margin on than others, and you should. So if your closest competitor is selling this item for $10, that does not mean that you should price this at $7.99 or $8. You could price it at $9.99 or $9.50, and things significantly change for you for the better for that particular item. And then there's the actual cost method. The actual cost method is the most comprehensive and, in my opinion, the best way if you have the data to price something, because the main difference is instead of just looking at labor and cost, you're looking at the whole business, right? So, in brick and mortar, obviously, that would be looking at things like occupational cost and things like that, or occupancy costs rather, and things that include like rent and utilities. Obviously, in the food truck world, this could include things like your payment on the truck and rent for space or anything like that. But I won't go into all of the details of how to get all this information just right now in the interest of time. But there's instructions here on how to do all of that. And so it's got all of these build on each other. It's got some information for you to kind of put in items. So you can say, okay, for this period of time in sales, my occupancy cost was X percentage of my business. So let's just say it's 8% here. Variable cost per order item, we'll say, we'll leave it at 12%, and a fixed cost per order item as well. So all these are broken down by order item. So you take your average sales per order item that you have, and then you break down and say, every item that I sell, 8% of the price that I'm selling it for is contributing to occupancy costs or contributing to variable costs or fixed costs. You can combine all this into one number if you want, but at the end of the day, if you're shooting for a different desired profit, you can change that number here, and you can say, all right, I'm shooting for a 15% profit or a 10% profit at the end of the day, after labor's paid, after all the costs of running my business are paid, and then it will do the math for you on what your prime cost is, what your menu price, what your rounded price should be. Again, the main difference here is that you're able to actually target a specific profit as a business. And then there's an area for you to just kind of think through your competitor price. This is a very subjective thing, and it comes down to branding to some degree at the end of the day. Am I going to want to be perceived as the higher value brand or the higher quality brand are all things that go into making that decision. All right, let me just find here we go. So rounding up, why do we do it? What's the information about it? So my biggest thing is be consistent in whatever you're going to do. Don't be afraid to make adjustments and optimize. If your truck can support a digital menu or a QR menu or both, those are both great things to be able to have so that you can be flexible without the costs of printing menus every time in order to actually make these changes. But the first thing that I will say is what we call first figure dominance. So if you have an item and you price it at $5.99, first figure dominance means that whatever that first figure is going to trump all of the different figures beneath that. A $5.99 item, even though it's 1 penny away from $6, is something that in the mind of the customer when they're making fast decisions, they're going to view that as $5. Particularly, this is impactful around the $9 and $10 mark because you're moved from a single digit to a double digit. So pricing something with a 9 in front of it has a sometimes drastic impact on sales if your particular customer is price conscious. So keeping that 9 in front instead of the 10 in front is something that you want to think about. And again, just don't be afraid to experiment and optimize, and keep in mind that it's a brand consideration also. So maybe your truck is something that you're trying to be more of a high-end type of business, and you want to say that we're making the highest quality item of this around us. So you don't necessarily in that case want to be perceived as much on the value side as you do on the quality side of that spectrum. So that should go into the thinking that you have when you do the subjective side of setting prices. The other thing I'll say is menu design matters. People buy with their eyes. There is a drastic amount, I think it's 27% is the last number that I had read in terms of menu descriptions. They can boost the sales of that item by as much as 27% on average. And give things simple, addressable names that mean hopefully the thing that the customer is picturing in their head when they're reading the name. If the name is deceptive and it comes out and it's not what they were thinking, there's an immediate disappointment, even if the thing is delicious, because if you name something that you think is in a way that you think is clever, but it gives them inaccuracies in terms of how they depict it in their brain versus the reality of it, that can be very problematic. And this is also, again, where pictures come in very handy because people buy with their eyes. And this is personal preference. I think there's a lot of the experts say this though, but keep it simple. A big menu is not only a menu that's going to have potentially more waste and a higher food cost because you're covering more ground, but it's a menu that is more overwhelming to your customers. So all of this, we got into the weeds, obviously, in pricing. Why does it matter? What does it tie to in terms of how can specifically table needs in this instance help you with the profitability of your food truck enterprise? Well, we have really tried to tailor table needs to help food trucks attain and maintain profitability, and we've done that through a number of features and resources like the ones that we just shared with you. But we're more than just a point of sale. So we call it a food truck operations platform because there's a number of things that may not seem like should just be part of a point of sale. Things like QR menu ordering, texting your customer, a kitchen display screen that can be accessed on any size screen, including your phone. and cash flow tools in order to manage your cash flow and give a complete operating system for your business. So to that end, we have a cash flow tool, again, that can connect to your bank account and help you literally create a business model for your restaurant and keep all of your cash top of mind and understand, here's my food cost, here's my cost of goods sold, all of that. And see the complete picture of your business as it is outside of the realm of the traditional realm of the point of sale, but also the thing that ultimately matters the most, which is, did my cash increase or decrease this month, this week, this afternoon? And so giving you tools that can be nimble on that front is very important. But all the other the things that you need in order to run a successful food truck at events or wherever you're going, a mobile application for taking orders with tap to pay right from your phone, online ordering, QR menu ordering for events, being able to control the flow of those orders and say, I don't want to overwhelm my truck staff, myself, by taking too many at one time, things like this. And then just keeping you organized with an easy to use kitchen display system and a simple point of sale that doesn't overcomplicate the screen, that says, here's quick access to your items, check the person out, give them great service, and let's move on with life and hopefully enjoy ourselves. So menus are complex. They're something that we have gained a lot of experience in over the years, especially starting as a QR menu company, trying to integrate with other points of sales and then becoming a point of sale ourselves. We've gained a lot of expertise there, and today we're also happy to give away a free menu consultation, and you can go to our website, apply now, email us, call us, all of the above. I hope this was valuable to you, and I am grateful for you taking the time out of your day to listen. Have a good day.